In the beginning of Odysseus' story to Alcinous, Odysseus talks of how they arrived on the shores of Cyclopes, and how Odysseus and his soldiers began pillaging the town and all of the places of interest all over Cyclopes. They raided the beach and raided each individual house, taking the women and all of the plunder with them. Then Odysseus and his men arrived on the shores of the land of the Lotus Eaters. Odysseus and his men made shore. Odysseus told his men to take a scouting party deep into the forest. But when Odysseus' scouting party arrived in the land of the Lotus Eaters, they found an abhorrent sight. The entirety of the people in this land were all drugged by this weird tree and its flowers. The men ate and ate and ate the tree and ate all of the flowers, and eventually they had no will to come back home. Odysseus knew that something was amiss, so he came along to find his men, and realized what was happening and the power of this drug. He decided to grab his men forcefully and drag them back, screaming and crying. Odysseus dragged his men back and told the other soldiers to put them in the hold, because they must get rid of the drug's effects on their mind. Odysseus' boat then sailed away towards the land of the Cyclopes. Odysseus and his men finally arrive on the shores of the Cyclopes. Odysseus and his brave warriors join together this time, make no mistake in separating, and enter onto the island through the woods. Odysseus and his men arrive at a cave and see an area with sheep. They walk through the area, passing by the sheep, and enter the cave. Odysseus and his men enter the cave. They sit down, start a fire, and spread out, and wait for whoever lives here, so they can receive gifts of hospitality. When the Cyclops finally comes home, he sees these men and asks their names. Odysseus gives his name, No Man. The Cyclops gives his name and says he is Polyphemus, and he tells these men that he will not give them gifts of hospitality. Instead, he will eat 2 of these warriors right here, right now. Odysseus and his men cower in the corner, behind barrels and such. Polyphemus then continues to go among his day, shutting the entrance to the cave. When Polyphemus comes back after a long day, the boys and warriors have a plan. They give Polyphemus the best of the wine that they have conquered from Cyclopes. Polyphemus eagerly drinks the wine and asks for more. They oblige. They give him more and more. And eventually, he passes out. Now, over the past day, these boys, these warriors, these skilled craftsmen, they have turned an ordinary walking stick into an absolute deadly and sharp-piercing weapon. Since Polyphemus is sleeping, the men take this weapon and they stab really hard into the eye of Polyphemus. Polyphemus, in an enraged state, grabbed at 2 more soldiers and completely ate them whole, barely hacking up any entrance. The men cowered into the corner and hid from Polyphemus. Seeing as he was now blind, he could not look for them very well. The men devise a plan. they will use the sheep from the sheep pen. Odysseus will take the biggest one, seeing as how he is the most manly of men and the biggest of the soldiers, and all 4 of them will sneak out through the sheep pen. These men will sneak out through the sheep area, making their way towards the coast, away from the prying eyes of Polyphemus, because of course he would not recognize that the men were on the sheep because he was blind. The men, along with the sheep, make their way back to the boat. As the boat makes its way towards an island off the coast of the land of the Cyclopes, Odysseus, the absolute arrogant boy he is, starts screaming towards Polyphemus. "Polyphemus! Odysseus, it is I, who has claimed your sight. Tell stories of how I have bested the great Polyphemus." Now his men, meanwhile, are trying to rein him in. Odysseus, don't anger the beast. Now, Polyphemus grabs mother of God, okay. He grabs a huge rock and completely throws it all the way, landing just in front of the boat, making soaring waves come up and push them back towards Polyphemus. Now the men, of course, at this point rush to keep going. Polyphemus did not have a chance to throw another rock. Once the men made it to the area off the coast of the land of the Cyclopes, they took the biggest sheep and completely slaughtered it, butchered it, burned the thighs in the name of Zeus, and poured out libations for the great king of the gods.